Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. I'm here with Mr. Tate Mathews. Tate, another state championship in the books. We get a third. We get a runner-up for the first time in a while. We're talking duals wrestling, state wrestling. And then basketball, this is hard to believe. 2 weeks left in the regular season. And then it's time.
It's time. Well, and in those 2 weeks, all district games. So no nights off. It's going to be fun. And here we are. It's still a lot up for grabs for a lot of teams. So the final 2 weeks of the district basketball season on both the boys and the girls is going to be fun. And then you're right. We had a second place and a third place in the AA, the D1 AA state dual championship. And Cleveland won their 8th straight state championship. They are a dynasty.
I'm tired of those people.
I am too. I don't know that they care.
But much respect to them.
And I don't know that they're going anywhere anytime soon. I can tell you this. You know this. You've watched it the last few years. You go every year. They're not going to come down. So we have a choice, which I think we're doing, right? We can either go up to where they are or they're going to keep winning, but they're not coming down.
Well, here's what I like. Now, maybe I have revisionist history, but I don't think so. 6 years ago, when I came into this position, what I heard was, we're great in wrestling, but we just can't overcome Cleveland and
Bradley.
Brett. Well, that one's, they gone.
Check.
We got that one.
Yes.
So we're going to do it.
Well,
we're going to do it eventually. We are.
I love the quote. I saw a quote by Zachary Little in the paper, and I thought it was great. And he was talking about how, there was a lot of that talk. Can we ever beat Cleveland? And then they've been talking about it. We keep getting closer and closer every year. And he said we've been developing. I forget exactly how he said it, but the club that we've been talking about, and we've been developing young wrestlers through the years, and now we're getting closer. That's what we've been talking about if you don't have the club wrestling, you're not going to do well in that match, in that meet. You're just not. The way Summit's going to have to do it, the way Nolensville's going to have to do it, Brentwood, Franklin, whoever, any of the WCS teams, is they're going to have to develop them through the years. Cleveland's in a little bit different situation, not to throw darts at them. I mean, what they do is unbelievable. But they're kind of like Alcoa football, Maryville football. They play by a different set of rules. Okay, well, we don't do that. How do you have to do it? You're going to have to develop them, guys like Zachary Little that have now probably been in that program for the past 7-8 years. You know what I'm saying? And they're getting closer. You got to remember that the Summit Spartan, I don't know what their club is called, it's at the most 10 years old. So these young men are growing up wrestling, and by the time they get there, they've got 8-10 years under their belt. That's how they're going to have to do it. You can see the proof in the pudding. Not the way we wanted to come out, but here we are with our first runner-up in quite some time.
Well, speaking of that, so Summit, excuse me, runner-up, Ravenwood finishes third. And let's face it, Nolensville was top 2 during the year.
Well, at some points of the year, I think a lot of people had them won. I don't know how you until you beat the man, you're not the man.
I had them won. Hey, I feel like I need to apologize. I feel like I need to apologize to Summit. Because until
you get knocked off,
and they didn't.
To be the man, you have to what?
Beat the man.
Beat the man, and that has yet to happen. But I think the cool thing about it is, not to take anything away from what Summit did, it's unbelievable. But I think in a way, what Ravenwood did, getting third, is even more impressive. I think a lot of people thought Summit had a really good chance to get to the state championship match. I don't think even if you thought Ravenwood was going to the state tournament, I don't know very many people that thought they were going to get third, and that's unbelievable. Really.
I think we did last week. Of course,
But did you?
We're a little bit. I'm saying once the bracket came out.
I'm talking about outside of Ravenwood fans.
No way.
Yeah, I don't think the other schools down there were picking them, and really remember, that program took a major dip. It just did. And Coach Peck hadn't been back long building that thing back up. It's as even more impressive as what they've done getting there is how quickly they've done it.
Tate, I know you've kind of alluded to some of this, but there's a lot in here. Let's talk about this week's gym. Okay. First time since Franklin defeated Bradley Central, again, Bradley Central, in 2005. That score was 32-31. It's the first time we've had a WCS school make the large classification championship. So Franklin won it that year. Fairview won it in 2021. They were runner-up in 2020. Just to add to the jimminess of this, in 2020, Nolensville was runner-up. In 2019, who was the coach?
Josh Peck.
Franklin, he wasn't on that team, but where did he wrestle?
Franklin. He's got his fingerprints on a lot of wrestling in Wilco. And if memory serves me correct, but I'm really, really, really confident in this, wrestled at Franklin and then went to Centennial. His first coaching job, I believe, was under Paul Hambrick, great guy, who was a former Franklin coach at Centennial. And then he took over for Coach Hambrick at Centennial, then started the program at Ravenwood, started the program at Nolensville, and is now back at Ravenwood. So yes, when you really start to break it down, I guess there's really nobody more Wilco wrestling than Coach Peck.
Coach Pelkey, formerly of Centennial, he has a son. I saw him at the championships. He's a couple sons wrestling for Summit.
Yep, one of them got a big win.
He did. All right, let's do this. Let's look at the bracket real quick.
Hey, by the way, there was a state championship team back in the early 90s. It's got to be somewhere up on the wall thing.
And they had some dudes.
Oh my gosh. That's got to be the most intimidating wrestling team to ever come out of WCS. There's a guy named Taiwan Armstrong, Hauser Rice. Oh man.
How would that team do against Cleveland?
Man, I would think they would have a really good chance. It was a little different back then. That was Taiwan and Hauser were football guys who would get there late, right? But then they would go out on the mat and just physically dominate people. So Cleveland is, I don't think there was as much club wrestling back then. So Cleveland's getting the Cleveland wrestlers are getting so many more, kind of like what we would call in basketball or football. They're getting so many more reps than what they did back then. But now if we're just talking about pure athletic ability, Jason Dial, he won a state champion. I mean, the team was loaded. So yeah, I think they wouldn't back down.
Tate, you mentioned football, guys participating in football. Ravenwood has a few, and I'm on the floor there for the championship and third place. It's going on at the same time. I get a text. Hey, good night for Wilco Wrestling, Will Hester. He not only sends me a text, he's in the arena. He's up there with Coach Elrod, the athletic director. He worked with wrestling.
Yes.
But I'm just thinking to myself, that's part of their success.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that he's so into it. Listen, the football coach at a school, big impact, and nobody does it better when you're talking about those things than Will Hester.
Yeah. Well, and one, he does it because he believes it, and he's for kids. But he also selfishly, he's smart. I mean, he understands it makes his football team better. So we'll talk about some of those young men that are two sports when we get to the results. But if I was a football coach, every lineman, everybody would be encouraged to wrestle. Now you got basketball guys, but every lineman would be, and read into strongly, however, whatever you want to read into it. Every lineman would strongly be encouraged to wrestle.
Let's look at the bracket there, Tate, and talk about the path that each took. So let's start with Summit. They defeat Houston. A lot of people thought that's going to be their toughest test. 62-17.
Hey boys. In wrestling,
this may be our first one.
In wrestling, that is what we call boat race city. So, Coach, Houston down there down there in West Tennessee. What's that river? Mud Island. Coach Miller took the Tennessee River by way of Mud Island on the way home. That is boat race city, popcorn city, tail kicking city, whatever you want to call it. That is domination right there.
62-17.
62-17. That's running clock city. It's bad.
Semifinals, they take on Knoxville Halls, who had knocked off Bradley Central, 45-27. Again, it was comfortable. It was a comfortable win.
Yes.
They ended up having some subs. I like that Coach Miller does that. Sometimes teams will just say, that's it, match over. He keeps the matches going.
Yes.
Which I think is great.
I agree.
45-27, then they lose to Cleveland in the final. We mentioned 49-18. Now let's talk about the Ravenwood path. They lose to Cleveland 46-15. We knew that was going to be tough. But then they have to go through the consolation bracket. They defeat Collierville 33-26. They defeat Knoxville Halls 43-23, and then Bradley Central 40-29 to secure third place. Here's what's interesting about it. So Summit, they've kind of had some draws the past few years, getting on the side with Cleveland.
Yeah.
This wasn't necessarily the team that could maybe do it. So it's interesting which team made the final. They're good.
Right.
It's not the best team he's had. But they make it all the way through. Again, that draw is part of it. And then you take a look at the Ravenwood team. If you want to, Tate, go through some of those results. We've got the Ravenwood 40-29 win and then the Summit 49-18 loss. But if you look at that Ravenwood team, you talk about some multi-sport athletes. A lot of these guys, maybe all of them, are back next year.
Yeah.
Which is impressive.
Really impressive. Well, and then they come back, and I don't think anybody, I think, again, like we talked about, Bradley Central, there used to be a time where that was considered a really, boy, I hope we don't see Bradley Central. Not only do they beat them, they got after them. They defeated them 40-29. But here's what I loved about it. They defeated them 40-29. They had 7 wins. And again, you're talking about these guys are coming back. They've been building this thing. This I think, gives you a little insight into where this program's headed. Because only a couple years into the rebuilding process, they went 40-29. They had 7 wins. But in those 7 wins, they had 5 pins.
30 points, 5 times
30,
6.
Very good. And 2 technical falls.
5 points each.
So 30 plus 10 is 40. I mean, they win 7 matches, they lose 7 matches. They're not even close to getting as deep as what I think they can be, especially, with the amount of athletes, the size of that school. So again, that's really, think about that. If they just get a couple of 3-pointers here or there, that margin's even more. So 5 pins, 2 technical falls, that's total. That's really getting after their tail. It starts off in the second round. Speaking of a big part of why Coach Hester was there, Mathews Anderson. If you did not, if you don't know that name, you weren't paying much attention on the defensive side of the ball for the Ravenwood Raptors. But at 165, he goes out there, gets a pin, 252. And then we go down, Sam Rowan at 190. He gets the fall at 148. Thomas Lobliner, of course, Ravenwood. He gets it at 113, pin. Branson Hetherington at 54. That's quick.
Very quick.
Pin. Ryan Dietrich, who's had a great year all year long. He gets the pin at 138. And then J.D. Longley and Maddox Eskew both get the technical falls. So in their 7 wins, those were 7 dominating wins.
For Summit, they jump out in the championship 15-0. 3 straight technical falls. At 150, Zachary Little. Braylon Pelkey, we mentioned earlier, at 157. Yep. Braden Leach at 165. After that, Cleveland just powered through. And then Jaden McKinney for Summit gets a decision 4-2 there at the end. So they're up 15-0, 49 straight points for Cleveland. But they're just, the depth of that squad is impressive. But Cleveland, listen, we're coming for you.
We're coming for you. Well, what a way to start off. I mean, again, 3 straight wins to start the match off, and 3 of them were technical. All 3 of them were technical falls. And look at those scores: 19. Zachary Tex, the 150-pounder, 19-2. At 157, Pelkey Tex, the wrestler, 16-0. He just couldn't pin them, And sometimes at those mid to lower weights, it is hard. No heavyweight, no 220s getting beat 16-0, not getting pinned, right? And then Braden Leach, 19-4. So not only were they Tex, they were really getting after him. we were talking about momentum and being in the gym, which this was the arena this time. But think about that, man. Talk about highs and lows. You come off Cleveland, the 7-time defending champion. You win the first 3 matches by a technical fall, and then 7 straight losses. I'm sure it got pretty quiet in there on the Summit side. And then they come back and get another one at the very end with Jaden McKinney. So, yeah, we're coming. The gap is still there. We're not in the excuse-making business, but Cleveland, the first round. Here's Cleveland's 3 matches. Cleveland, the first round, Ravenwood, 46-15. Dobyns-Bennett, the second round, 57-11. Cleveland and Summit, 49-18. Best team won.
The best team won. The individual tournament, we'll start.
It's going to be fun.
That's coming up. That'll be fun, too. Again, to remind our viewers, the traditional state champions, what they call that, there's an individual opportunity to win in every class, and then based on how you do, your team gets points.
That's right.
So we have an individual and a team state champion in that as well.
At the individual.
It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
Wrestling's great.
But so look, so there will be obviously there's individuals state champions in every weight class. But then there's a dual state champion, which Cleveland just won. There will be a team champion at the individual state championships. Just making sure they got you. We have a chance to win that one too.
I think that's when we're going to get them. When we finally beat them, it's going to be in that tournament.
Could be. Well, you look at Ravenwood. Ravenwood's going to point out so much better in that format. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
They will. All right, let's talk a little hoops, Tate. A lot going on this past week. On the girls' side, I'll just get to the standings first. You've got Brentwood, Nolensville, and Page all sitting at 9-1. You've got Franklin and Indy both at 5-5, and they play this week. So We'll see what happens with that. So they're going to end up 4-5. Then you've got Summit 2-8, Ravenwood 1-9, Centennial 0-10. Based on schedule, it looks like to me Summit will end up being 6th before it's all said and done. But if you look at that scoreboard, Tate, Brentwood loses to Nolensville on a Friday at home. The score was really low, 44-36 or whatever it was. They score 78 on Tuesday. They score 70 on Friday. 2 big wins. The Friday win over Franklin. Ella Ryan, 35 points.
Went off.
That win. And then Tuesday night, it was 78-32 at Summit.
Yeah, the Nolensville loss didn't sit well with Coach Wilkins, and I don't think it set well with the Lady Bruins players either. They were not happy with their performance, and we talked about it last week on Sports Connection. They only scored 6 points in the fourth quarter. That is not going to happen again. There's no scenario the rest of the way out where I see them only scoring 6 points in a quarter again. Do you? I mean,
no.
You never say never, but I'm willing to say never on this one. So, anyways, that was sometimes you have a bad night. I think that was their bad night. I'm sure Coach Wilkins said, "What are we going to do about it? How are we going to react to it?" And you see what they did Tuesday and Friday, and I do think part of that Franklin score was a little bit of the last time they played. As we mentioned, it was tied going into the fourth quarter.
Tied late in the fourth.
Yeah.
It was 59 all late.
And I think I've heard a couple of the coaches say it, and remember, this is Coach, he did not say this, but this is his first year here in the district. But, everybody talks about it because it is. The Brandamore mismatch is unlike any other in the district. I think maybe after seeing it one time, he had a better feel for what you got to do to go up against them.
Nolensville, after beating Brentwood, so the thought might be, hey, maybe Franklin gets them. That game on Tuesday night, 52-36, Nolensville with that win. They also defeat Ravenwood, had to do a double take on this score. Yeah, just a reminder. 54-8. Yeah,
See Rule 1 in the bylaws.
We don't do it. Josie Ladd. Name sound familiar?
Yes.
The freshman, 17 points, 6 rebounds in that win over Franklin.
Hey, and they got a lot of good players. That's part of why they're 9-1. But Josie's been playing a great all year long, and she contributes in every facet of the game. She can score, she rebound. She's usually got 3 or 4 assists and a couple of steals. Playing great defense as well. So yeah, it's exciting to see her play. You know, her daddy was I don't think he made it up in the new Overton High School when they renovated, but in the old day, her daddy was up on the Wall of Fame. Coach Ladd he was a Johnny O Bobcat. He could get after it.
And if you haven't been, that Wall of Fame was epic. It's like
it was unbelievable.
It's like the picture frames that you have.
There may or may not be not Coach Ladd. There may or may not have been a few ex-cons on that wall.
There was some vandalism of the pics every once in a while.
So great, man. It's really sad what they did to that school.
I will say this about Nolensville. Of the top three, I think they're going to be third. When it gets down to it, I think they'll end up being third. However, before you at me, and don't do it, by the way, they're the team the next couple of years.
Wow, I hope
They've got younger players.
I'm sure they're, after what you did to the wrestling team, they're probably saying, hey, don't put that on us. Okay, you said that like really confidently. You didn't even hesitate on that.
Page is losing some players. Don't get me wrong, they've got good young players too. But the difference is Nolensville's young players are playing right now.
No, not that part. When you said you think they end up third this year.
They're going to be. I just think Brentwood and Page have a little bit too much firepower. Right now they do.
Yeah.
They've got older firepower.
I mean, it always does, but it's really going to matter who matches up with
it does.
Hey, and you mentioned, I don't think we've given enough credit to what Coach Jackson's doing down at Independence. They got a chance to finish up fourth.
Well, they're going to play Franklin in the first round of the district. It's a matter of the location. And they played last year at Franklin, and Indy won.
Yep. She's done a really good job.
So it's heading back to the same matchup. We'll see, again, location. Boys scoreboard. Let's jump into those standings real quick, Tate. So now that we've got 2 weeks left, we've got 3 teams that are 7-3. Brentwood, Franklin, Indy. Nolensville's 5-5. Page and Summit are 4-6. Ravenwood, Centennial 3-7. So it's still a little cloudy, but it's getting a little bit clearer. It looks like Brentwood, Franklin, or Indy, one of those 3 is going to win the league regular season. Here's a prediction I have for you. On Tuesday night, Indy travels to Franklin.
Ooh.
The winner of that game will be the number 1 seed. Brentwood's got a few on the road. They're a younger team. They haven't played quite as well on the road.
Hey, they'll tell you that.
I think they end up third, and the Franklin-Indy winner ends up winning the league.
Well, Independence is playing really well as of late. And this is crazy.
Title goes through Indy.
Well, and don't you feel like it's kind of been under the radar? I mean, how does the defending 4A state champion going on a 5-game winning streak go under the radar? But I feel like it has, and I know Coach Wilkins is cool with that. But
I hate to tell you, it wasn't. I mean, we go back to media day. That's Indy. And it's not Indy yet.
Done yet.
It's not Indy yet. But let me tell you something else they've got. Tournament Thailand.
Ooh, I like it.
The region
title Thailand.
The region MVP his sophomore year. The region tournament MVP his junior year. When the tournament starts, he goes to another level. And I think part of it's what he brings. He plays good defense, the physicality, the fouls don't get called as much in the tournament. I'm not saying he fouls. I'm saying it's a more physical game, and that is in his favor.
Yeah. And well, of course, he spent a lot of he's gifted, but he spent a lot of time in the weight room. He wants it. There's not many that look like him. Without a doubt, I love what he's done with his body. If you bring a recruiter in who knows nothing about him, they automatically think he's a football kid. That's what he's done with his body. He looks like a football kid. Which means he spent a lot of time in the weight room.
I think throw him in a secondary somewhere.
Oh.
He's an SEC level.
I'm pretty sure Coach
talent.
Stidham told him, these coaches coming through all the time, if I brought them in and showed you, you'd start getting offers now. Probably true.
Can I see some film? Yeah, from the 8th grade.
Right.
You can see some.
Come back in the fall.
Well,
and then are we going to talk results here? Or
we are. Let's talk about this real quick. So Indy, 5-game winning streak. They beat Ravenwood and Centennial. Page gets a much-needed win over Summit on Friday night, and that's after Summit. Now think about this. On Tuesday night, it's just crazy how the league is.
Yep.
Tuesday night, Brentwood visits Summit. Summit gets the win. They get a bucket late in that game to secure a 48-46 win. Keenan West with the big bucket there. Only time Summit had the lead.
In the entire game.
In the entire game. And let me remind you of this. Again, 48-46. The last time they played, it was 92-45. The first time they played, Brentwood's margin of victory was greater than the number of points they scored on
That was
Tuesday.
when they hit 21 threes.
21 threes. So, man, what a difference a game makes. But then Brentwood, you're thinking, oh, they're going to be down now. They totally bounced back with a 51-40 win, 41 win on Friday night. And the guy, I'm always trying to, I don't try to do this, but you said with Brandon Moore, Tim Duncan-esque, Davis, Cochran, Christian Leitner. He got a little Leitner.
I like it.
The good stuff.
Yeah,
he's got a little Leitner.
He kind of runs like him a little bit. He got a little bit of a late start on Friday night, but boy, he ended up, didn't matter. He
Emotionally, what he brings to the team, I like it.
Also, I know the family very well, so I can say this. Love the kid. He's going to be awesome. And I think it's part of why maybe here he is. He's Daniel's little brother. He's a freshman last year, stepping up big in region tournament games, sub-state games. I feel like maybe there's a little bit of an edge there. There might be a little talking going on.
There's a lot of
below where the referees can quite make out what's going on.
And I kind of like. I was saying this.
Kind of like it, or you really like it?
I really like it. I was saying this at the game, and not that you want a lot of that, but I promise you, he'd be one of those guys. If I were coaching him, be a lot of ignoring.
Yeah.
I'd be looking for a towel or a Gatorade.
No, I didn't see it. But hey, he backs it up, brother.
I like it.
He can bomb. He and Daniel obviously are different, but Daniel can shoot the three, but not like Davis.
Okay, here's a take that some people aren't going to like.
And he's so long.
Here's a take some people are going to get mad at me for this. But if you take all the guys in our league, regardless of class, if you're talking about highest level at the next level, I think it's him.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's because
you're getting at it on this one.
I am. It doesn't mean the others aren't great, but what he can do with the ball in his hands for his size, and if you take a look at him, he's going to get significantly bigger.
Oh, big time. He's
significantly
in high
bigger.
school, 20, 25 pounds. College, who knows? But his wingspan is unbelievable. And I thought he did a really good job defending on Brown. At the beginning of the game, he was kind of bullying his way down there. It was almost Shaq-esque, like, I'm just going to move you out of the way. But it got better as the game went on, and that's where.
And hey, Brown had a great game too.
He did.
He's a senior.
He's a senior, right? And you can tell what he's done with his body the last 2 years in the weight room. So Davis gets in that weight room, which Coach Crane, he's not giving him much of a choice. I'm with you, man. His upside's very big.
Davis got that baby face still.
He's a baby.
He's a baby. See, riding a bike to school still?
Well, I'd like to see him on a bike. That seat would have to be up high.
32. Sure.
I don't know. He's close. But that's what blows my mind. Not so much that's what's so crazy about this as we get towards the end. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't have picked him, but I'm not surprised Brentwood won. But I'm surprised they held Franklin to 41. And I know there was some, again, no excuses. There was a little bit of some sickness going, maybe sickness struggles in Franklin, but still to hold them to 41 points.
Everyone's had that.
Yeah.
The physical, whether it be a tweaking an ankle or whatever, forget that part. But that sickness you're talking about, that has gone through a lot of teams.
Yes. And I tell you
Different
another
times.
result that cannot go unmentioned because it's big. Nolensville 45 versus Ravenwood 35.
That's right.
As hard as this is to believe, that's the first no-low men's basketball victory over the Raptors.
1-11 now. I wonder if it'll be
Is
like
that monkey off your back? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
I wonder if it's like the old thing that I told you my man, Mr. Carver, used to say about the olives. That when you open up the jar, it's hard to get that first one out, but once you get it out, it just starts flowing.
They all start coming.
So I wonder if maybe it'll start flowing for them. They got a good team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's just rewind 4 weeks ago. They were up there at the top, tied. So
I can't wait to see what happens in the tournament.
and then yeah. And so Summit beats Brentwood, but then turns around and gets, double digit beat by Page. This tournament's going to be nuts.
So Friday, big rival games again. Brentwood, Ravenwood, Centennial, Franklin, which is the WCTV game of the week. Indy, Summit, Nowensville, Page. But one I'm looking at this coming week, Tate, on that boys' side, Centennial, Nowensville.
Yeah.
I think that is a big one. Coach Moore's got his squad playing a lot better. I believe they've won maybe 3 out of their last 4.
Yeah.
I think they were 0-6 to start off. Now they're 3-7. Look out for them. Hey, and before I forget,
A lot of people would maybe not, no, but Daniel Patton, he had a 30-piece in there one
did.
night. I mean, a lot of people, he's up at the top of the draft board.
Tate, before we move further, because we mentioned that Page Summit game, let's take a look at the WCTV plays of the week.
I thought I was going to say good rebound, but it didn't come down for him. Page is pushing it.
Oh!
Excellent.
Dipsy do.
Absolutely. Is that number 11?
What a scoop.
Page's crowd has kind of come to life now. They were a little quiet early on. Had nothing really to cheer for.
Oh,
spinning.
Yes, sir.
He's come up 3 times right now with big plays.
Well, it was a good night for the Page Patriots and Lady Patriots down at Summit. The girls won 59-43 and the boys 56-52. And you saw the first one there, Mia Kabali, with the, as Coach Brees on the call called it, the Dipsy Do. That was pretty athletic there, getting a little extra work in to get that, and getting knocked to the ground. That was a very athletic play by Mia, but she's been doing it all year long. And then Josh spinning. It looked like, maybe the defense lulled them into it. I'd love to know what you thought of the execution of the offense. Looked like beautiful execution of the Summit Spartan offense, and then out of nowhere, spinning pins that thing or slaps that thing off the backboard. 2 really athletic plays by the Patriots and Lady Patriots.
Well, to me, that's what defensively, that can be frustrating for an offense, that you do what you're supposed to do and you're like, not so fast.
I think I
my
got
friend.
an easy one here.
And then you don't. I would say this on that boys' side, which adds to it. Page had been on a little bit of a slide there.
Yeah.
They were down 23-10 early in that game, so credit to Coach Street and his squad for making that comeback and getting that win. Now they're both sitting at 4-6. All right, Tate, anything stand out to you? I mentioned those games on Friday night. I mentioned Centennial, Nowensville boys. Obviously, boys and girls, Franklin, Indy, lots of implications in terms of how the seeding is going to end up being at Franklin on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. One, on the ladies' side, I think they're very evenly matched, and this is going to determine who hosts when we go to the district, and that's big, especially when you got a young team. I would think I think it really matters more to Independence. Indy needs to be at home, and then on that boys' side, I think Coach Tigert would be okay with it. Like this is our some people picking us to be number 1 this year. Some are still picking Independence. This is our chance to. Are we about it or not? You know what I'm saying? I would, if I'm the head coach of Franklin, if I'm an admiral, this game's pretty personal, man. I would almost make this one like tournament style. You're gonna have to come in here and take this.
I don't mean this in a bad way.
It'd be personal.
Because I'm not talking about the coaches, but I feel like because they've both been really good, there's no love lost between these 2 squads.
Athletically, I think it's been building for years. I don't think there's no love. I don't think there's any love lost between the schools. Athletically, I mean,
It's fun.
it makes it more fun.
It makes
man.
it fun.
You look at football going by. When Independence was in its infancy stages, this is for another show, there's a story of when Independence only had benches on the home side. And when the visitors, back then they were the Rebels, asked where the benches were for the halftime, they were told they didn't have any benches. What do you mean we don't have any benches? It wasn't in the budget. And let's just say that escalated. It's been building ever since. None of the current coaches were involved.
Benchgate.
Hey man,
Even I know that story.
it's a great one, isn't it?
I wasn't even near being here yet.
Okay. I don't know where you're going to find it, but we're sitting on one of those benches. However you want to do this.
Tate, as always, glad you're here. Can't wait to talk a little more hoops
Yep.
next week. And then the wrestling individual tournament's getting started.
Individual tournament's a great one. Congrats to the Raptor and Spartan wrestling teams. Great showing. Great job.
Thank you for joining us for Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.